Good morning. My name is Dr. Robert Martin, and the topic today is get what you need, not what you want. And that idea is a lot of people have an idea about hearing aids that makes problems for them. They have a daydream or a goal, and they start going toward their daydream, and they end up finding out that doesn't work very well. So before we get into our topic, I want to compare hearing aids to the game of baseball. You're all familiar with the game of baseball. You take a bat and go out there, and they start throwing you a ball, and you get a chance to swing and hit the ball. And in the game of baseball, you get 3 strikes, then you're out. And the reason I'm using that example or that analogy in the hearing aid business is that the hearing aid business, or the task of getting and using a hearing aid, is like baseball, only you don't get 3 strikes. You don't even get 2 strikes. You get 1 strike and you're out. Let's see if I can explain what that means. We're going to talk about a topic today about all the different types and styles of hearing aids and what's good and bad about a different hearing aid. And we're going to talk about how do you get what you really need. But before we talk, I want to just have you look at a couple of little ideas and talk about 1 strike, you're out. Suppose you get a beautiful little hearing aid and it goes in your ear and it's real pretty and you're happy with it. Although when you put it in, there's a little edge on it, and this little edge cuts your ear. When you put it in your ear, it's painful to wear, so you take it off. 1 strike, you're out. Or suppose the hearing aid you have is a beautiful little hearing aid. You put it in your ear, you turn it on, and people talk, and you can hear them, and you say, gosh, that's good. But when you start talking, your own voice sounds absolutely terrible, and you can't stand to wear it. So 1 strike, you're out, you can't wear it. Or suppose you get a hearing aid and you put it on, and when you put it on, it brings in all the background sound. You hear all the sound wrapped all the way around you. 1 strike, you're out. So when we talk about hearing aids, we want to talk about how do you get a hearing aid that really does what you want, help you hear somebody, but it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't bring in all the extra sounds. It's a comfortable product, and it's a comfortable thing to wear. So to do that, let's stop for a second and take a look at hearing aids. Here are some examples of lots of different hearing aids. And while you're looking at those, I also want you to look at these other models I have in these boxes to show you different types of hearing aids. We don't have 2 or 3 or 5 different types and styles of hearing aids. We literally have hundreds of hearing aids. But this little organization here is one of the ways to organize hearing aids so that you can kind of see what hearing aids look like. Over here on this side, we have a hearing aid that goes in your ear. It fills up the outside ear. It's called an in the ear. Here's a hearing aid we have that goes down an ear canal, and it's called a canal hearing aid. Here's a hearing aid that's so tiny it goes completely in your ear, and it's called a completely in the ear hearing aid. Here's an old-fashioned style hearing aid that goes behind your ear, has a large tube and a large plastic. It's called a behind the ear. And this is the new type of hearing aid called the open. And this type of hearing aid has a little dome on the end of it, and you can see lots of little holes on the dome that goes behind. You can see the little holes that are on the dome that go down in the ear. And inside the ear and inside the canal, a completely in the canal, a behind the ear, and the new open type hearing aid. All right, so let's take a look at what some of these hearing aids do and don't do. What I've done here is I've taken a bunch of different hearing aids and I've made them into 2 different groups. Down here on this, here on the bottom, are the type of hearing aids generally called open. We use the name open even though they're not all open. Up here on the top is the behind the ear, the completely in the canal, and the ITE. And I want to put all of these hearing aids into a category of old-fashioned or old style. We still use them and they're fairly popular, but most modern hearing aids are going to fall into this category. So the type of hearing aid you're probably going to end up with is this category here. Now, old style, new style. But before we talk about new style, I want to compare 2 hearing aids so that you really understand how much hearing aids have changed. These look sort of the same, but they're really completely different. This is a new tiny digital hearing aid. This is an old-fashioned analog hearing aid. On an analog hearing aid, you have a wheel and a switch. On a new digital hearing aid, you do not have a wheel and you do not have a switch. On an old analog hearing aid, you have a big nylon hook. On a new tiny digital hearing aid, you have a little tiny wire. On an old analog hearing aid, you have a large tube that goes down to the plastic. In this case, you have the hook and the large tube. In the new digitals, you have only the wire and a little speaker. And if you look very carefully on the end of this, you can see a little black speaker that actually goes in the ear. Old style, new style, they look sort of the same, but this type of hearing aid has many advantages. There's many advantages to this that this one doesn't have. When you compare the older style hearing aid to the new, one of the things is you look at is the hearing aid that has a tube. Whenever you put sound through a tube, and if I'm going to talk to you and I put the sound of my voice down through the tube, you can hear the sound quality of my voice change when you run it through a tube. This type of hearing aid has a tube. This type of hearing aid does not have a tube, it simply has a wire. So in the future, you're going to see the world move to this type of hearing aid, and I want to put this one on and I want you to take a good look at it. Here's the hearing aid. It goes here. The wire runs down the side, and what you have is you have a hearing aid that's behind the ear, microphones that are behind the ear, a tiny wire that runs into the ear, and a speaker that's way down inside the ear. These kind of hearing aids come in different sizes and different colors. If you need a bigger one for a particular reason, or if you happen to prefer a small one, this type of hearing aid, if you say I'm interested in cosmetics, they can come in a hearing aid as small as that. You put that hearing aid on, put it down into your ear, the hearing aid stays behind your ear, and there's not much to see with it, and it's quite high-tech. New hearing aids can be controlled by your telephone. No, you no longer have the volume wheels. They don't exist. You no longer have on and off switches. They make the cases much tighter. They're much more waterproof. This type of hearing aid, the water can get in it around the wheel. There's no wheel. The case is sealed tight to help prevent water from getting in it. Even the microphones have little barriers on the microphones to keep the circuits inside there dry, making the hearing aid last better, work better, last longer. So my little video today is all about getting a hearing aid that's appropriate for you, and you want to be careful when you say I need this or I want this. It's best to find out what you really need, and I can tell you what you really need, or at least you should consider these items. You want one that's comfortable to wear. You want to get rid of whistle, you want to get rid of feedback, you want to hear the appropriate sounds, you want to hear your husband or your wife, you want to hear a person, you don't want to hear the refrigerator running, you don't want to hear a bunch of extra noise that's real loud. So it has to be comfortable, you want to be able to put it on and wear it for 10 hours, and you need to be able to hear clearly with it. So be careful when you say, I want this hearing aid, because the hearing aid you want may not give you the sound quality you need. Thank you for your attention.